April 2016. Reykjavik, Iceland. A nation still reeling from a world-class financial crisis was about to witness a political collapse. Their Prime Minister, Sigmundur Gunnlaugsson, reads the morning headlines, and his name is staring back at him. His secret offshore company, $4 million hidden from taxpayers, had just gone public. By noon, 20:000, furious protesters packed the streets outside his office. By sunset, 50,000 eggs splattered his windows. A dramatic demonstration of public rage. Within 72 hours, he resigned in disgrace. But he was just the first domino to fall. Britain's Prime Minister was suddenly forced to explain his family's offshore fortune on live TV. Even in Moscow, censors were working overtime as Putin's closest allies were connected to $2 billion in suspicious transactions. In Beijing, relatives of 8 top Communist Party leaders were suddenly exposed with offshore millions across the globe. The rich and the powerful were in full-blown panic mode, scrambling to contain the fallout. The weapon that brought them to their knees was digital. It was 5 million leaked files from a Panamanian law firm nobody had ever heard of, sent by an anonymous entity. This source had messaged a German reporter at 1247 AM with 3 cryptic words: interested in data. This wasn't merely a leak. It was a digital declaration of war on every corrupt leader and financial manipulator on Earth. Who risked death to send those files? And how did one cybercrime documentary story collapse governments and expose the invisible infrastructure of global wealth? That's what we're diving into today. The target was Mossack Fonseca, the law firm specializing in corporate services. In reality, they were a high-volume factory for financial invisibility. The German reporter, Bastian Obermeier of the Süddeutsche Zeitung, clicked on the first sample. 47 files that confirmed the whistleblower's promise. Mossack Fonseca wasn't selling legal services. They were selling invisibility. The first sample arrived just after 3 a.m. By dawn, 3 gigabytes had been downloaded. A massive initial haul. By March 18th, the counter hit an incomprehensible 8 terabytes. And the deluge didn't stop. The final count was 5 million documents spanning 4 decades of financial transactions. This leak, known forever as the Panama Papers, would eventually dwarf WikiLeaks' entire archive by a factor of 8. Now, how do you hide $2 billion without anyone noticing? Mossack Fonseca had mastered that skill, making money vanish on paper through the mechanics of financial fraud. The recipe is deceptively simple and involves 3 key steps. First, you register a corporation in a low-tax, high-secrecy jurisdiction like the British Virgin Islands or Panama. Second, you install a nominee director. A local paid a small fee to sign papers but hold no real power or control. Third, you open a bank account under the shell company's name. Congratulations. The money's origin is now obscured, and the true owner is invisible. Mossack Fonseca industrialized this process, creating over 240,000 shell entities between 1977 and 2015. At their peak, the firm was churning out 400 new companies per week. While the initial contact with the reporter wasn't through a traditional dark web marketplace, the files themselves contained high-value, high-impact data often brokered there. Had the whistleblower, known only as John Doe, chosen to sell this information to a hostile state or a cybercrime collective, the geopolitical consequences would have been immediate and catastrophic. Instead, John Doe's warning looped in the reporter's mind: my life is in danger. Obermeier knew this was too big for one man or one newspaper. He needed an army. But one leak to the wrong person meant the powerful targets would simply bury the evidence before publication. He reached out to Marina Walker at the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, or the ICIJ, in Washington. Within 70 hours, Walker had assembled the largest cross-border journalism collaboration ever attempted. It was 376 reporters from 76 countries, all operating under strict non-disclosure agreements and using PGP encryption for communication. Their collective mission was a high-stakes cybersecurity protocol unto itself. Communications were locked down, and databases sat behind firewalls that logged every access attempt. When discussing Vladimir Putin's network, team members avoided writing his name, referring to him only as Subject 14. They weren't paranoid. They were realistic. Russian state hackers had breached newsrooms before, so the risk of premature exposure was absolutely existential. The problem they faced was monumental. 11. 5 million files. Don't come with an index or a search bar. There was just raw chaos. Emails in Spanish. Ledgers in German. Incorporation papers in Mandarin. The ICIJ's data editor, Mark Cabra, assigned analysts to build a searchable engine from scratch. They had to write algorithms to parse names from unstructured text, cross-match signatures with public databases, and flag suspicious transactions above certain thresholds. One script ran overnight and returned 42,000 entities linked to politically exposed persons, or PEPs. Patterns began to emerge, illustrating the true sophistication of financial fraud. Shell companies didn't exist in isolation. They formed complex chains. Company A owns Company B, which owns Company C, registered in 3 different tax havens. Tracing ownership required following these threads across multiple continents. This is a classic money laundering technique designed to introduce distance and opacity between the criminal funds and the final owner. It's what makes recovery so incredibly difficult for law enforcement. The sheer scale of the exposé was staggering, connecting 12 current or former heads of state and 143 politicians worldwide. They found connections to 29 individuals on Forbes' billionaire list, and emails revealing companies bankrolling Hamas weapons purchases. The offshore economy wasn't just big, it was the parallel infrastructure of global power. Verification consumed months, because you can't publish that a prime minister owns a secret shell without proof that would hold up in court. For every claim, reporters cross-referenced every signature, every SWIFT code, and every incorporation record. The team investigating Icelandic Prime Minister Gunnlaugsson spent 3 weeks cross-referencing his wife's company against failed Icelandic bank creditor lists. The smoking gun was undeniable. His household owned claims worth millions against the very banks he was supposed to be regulating after the 2008 financial crisis. A crippling, undisclosed conflict of interest. In Britain, they confirmed that David Cameron's late father was listed as a director of Blairmore Holdings, a Bahamas-registered fund. For a prime minister championing austerity, the optics of his family profiting from structures designed to avoid British taxes were catastrophic. In February 2016, the consortium reached out for comment, a required step before publication. Mossack Fonseca co-founder, Ramon Fonseca, responded with indignation, claiming their allegations were based on stolen documents and that they had broken no laws. But behind the scenes, chaos erupted. Employees began quietly deleting emails, and clients bombarded the firm's phone lines, demanding answers. One captured conversation reveals a Mossack lawyer telling a panicked client, "If your name is out there, it's too late. The files are everywhere now." This highlights the greatest digital threat to the powerful information asymmetry. Once the data is decentralized, like this digital army had done, it is impossible to contain or destroy. The journalists had risked careers for a story that might land with a thud. Or worse, they feared powerful interests might launch lawsuits, a form of legalized phishing, to bury the truth in litigation. The counterattack would be swift, aggressive, and well-funded. But they held the line. On April 3, 2016, at 2000 hours UTC, the publish button was pressed. 109 media outlets published in unison, and within 90 seconds, Panama Papers was the top trend on Twitter in 43 countries. The consortium's website crashed under the weight of 12 million page views in the first hour. Secrecy was dead. The crowd outside the Icelandic parliament erupted in celebration. Gunnlaugsson was gone. The casualties multiplied rapidly. David Cameron admitted he profited, leading to an 11-point drop in approval. Spain's industry minister resigned, and Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was eventually disqualified by the Supreme Court. Moscow's response was predictable, calling the revelations a CIA-backed information attack, a classic disinformation tactic used to deflect from a major cybercrime documentary exposure. Beijing deployed the Great Firewall, scrubbing every mention of the Panama Papers from Weibo and WeChat. The censorship itself confirmed the corruption at the highest level. Tax authorities mobilized immediately. France, Germany, Australia, and the U.S. all launched joint probes. By April 8th, at least 30 countries had initiated criminal or tax investigations. By December 2021, tax agencies had reported recovering an astounding $36 billion in unpaid taxes and penalties. The law firm itself couldn't survive the scandal. By March 2018, Mossack Fonseca announced its closure, citing irreversible reputational damage. The biggest win, however, was legislative. The political calculus shifted. Defending offshore secrecy became toxic. The United Kingdom launched a public beneficial ownership registry in 2016. The first G7 nation to do so, all 28 EU member states implemented directives requiring disclosure of true corporate owners, crucially, in the United States. The 2021 Corporate Transparency Act finally mandated that shell companies report beneficial owners, but the system, like a hydra, simply grew new heads. The Paradise Papers leaked in 2017, exposing new schemes in Bermuda. The Pandora Papers followed in 2021, revealing that elites had simply migrated to trusts in South Dakota and real estate in Dubai. Regulators close one door, wealth managers find another. The cat-and-mouse game continues. But the Panama Papers gave offshore finance a public face. Politicians couldn't dismiss it as theoretical anymore. As a digital sleuth, I can tell you that the principles that protected the journalists and exposed this vast network are the same ones that can protect you from cybercrimes and digital threats. This leak wasn't just about global corruption. It was a masterclass in data security and the power of vigilance. Here is your essential, non-negotiable cybersecurity protocol. First, you must embrace encryption, just like the reporters did. For your own life, use end-to-end encrypted messaging apps like Signal, and always encrypt your hard drive. Second, use unique, complex passwords and 2FA. The weakest link in any system is the password. So use a password manager to generate and store unique, strong passwords for every single site. And turn on two-factor authentication for all financial and high-value accounts. This is your digital bulletproof vest. Third, learn phishing and social engineering tactics. Major leaks and nearly all dark web scams begin with a successful phishing attack. Assume every unexpected email or text message is a trap. If an email creates urgency, like a security alert or a wire transfer authorization, stop, delete, and manually verify the source. Never click the link. Fourth, practice financial hygiene. The rich use offshore accounts to hide money, but regular criminals use compromised accounts. Regularly review your bank and credit card statements. If you see an unauthorized charge, report it immediately. The faster you act, the higher your chances of recovery from fraud. John Doe risked everything to expose a rigged system. Their message was simple: the system is rigged, and only transparency can fix it. While the powerful continue to play their games, your best defense is to stay informed, stay encrypted, and stay vigilant until the next case is cracked. I'm the Digital Sleuth, and I'll see you in the shadows.